Verse 39. O son of Kunti, Arjuna, the unquenchable flames of inner desire are the constant enemy even of the wise. You must understand that this basic desire needs to be overcome, this basic attachment to the ego. Everything else springs from that. This is why I've created this Naya Swami order that emphasizes the fact of the ego being in samadhi, being a part of God. It's samadhi-oriented, whereas in the days of Shankaracharya, people didn't know. It wasn't possible to know at that time. Human consciousness had not evolved sufficiently to understand that all desires of a human being separate him from another, but he's not separate at all. People used to think that forms are solid and permanent, that a rock is solid and permanent, that this body is just yours. And they could not have understood then what they can understand now when science has shown that matter is only energy. The teaching of Isaac Newton, was that matter can neither be created nor destroyed. And this is true, but it can be transmuted. And so matter is really, and this is what science has discovered in just the last 100 or so years, that matter, it can be transmuted into energy because it is energy. It isn't destroyed, it just assumes its basic form as energy. And many scientists today are beginning to suspect, and have been saying so for quite a number of years, that energy looks as if it's really a vibration of thought. And the teachings of India are that thought is really only a vibration of consciousness. When God created the universe, He created waves on the surface of His consciousness. And those waves first appeared in idea form, then in energy form, then projected most densely in the form of matter. But everything ultimately is the consciousness of God and a manifestation thereof. Well, now we can understand these things, whereas a few hundred years ago it would have been quite impossible. So this Naya Swami order is also, its purpose is not to think in terms of I don't want this, I don't want that, I'm not attached to that, because the source of all those possible attachments is the ego. And the first thing that the renunciate needs to do is get rid of the ego. How can you do that? Well, I found it very helpful. First of all, Krishna teaches also to not desire the fruits of action. But then it's not, certainly beyond that, it is not to give up action altogether. You can't help but act. Therefore, act in the right way, and that means don't be attached to the fruits of your action. But then also, I found it very helpful to let my interaction with other people be a test for my own freedom from ego. For example, if they insult me, I thank them. There was one time in San Francisco, there was a big spiritual function for the new Zen Roshi and at their temple. And I was there, and afterwards I was talking outside with a young woman. And after a certain time, I asked her name, and she told me, and she says, "What is your name?" I said, "Swami Kriyananda." "Swami Kriyananda, but you're famous." And I said, "Well, maybe, but why do you say that word 'but'?" And she said, "Well, all the other famous people I've ever met seemed important." Well, I knew what she meant, but I was absolutely delighted to be considered unimportant. You just don't matter in this world. Don't let people, don't look for flattery, don't look for praise. Just say that He is doing it all through me. The more you can do that, the more you will find a very interesting fact, that you can do things much better than if you're doing them with your ego. When I was young and I wanted to write, I would beat my brain out trying to think of something to say. But when I became a devotee of God and entered the spiritual path and following my guru, I found that thought that he urged me to develop of God being the doer made it possible for me to do a great deal more. He could inspire me as my ego never could. Your ego is your worst enemy. You must work to overcome it. And as I said, when people talk slightingly to you, when they insult you, and when they praise you also, don't take that praise personally. Just say, God is the doer. He is the doer of everything. He is dreaming you. He is dreaming our existence. We must get into that frame of mind where we understand that, as I've said before, a stove has many little jets of flame. And you can make those jets look individual by throwing different kind of chemicals on each little jet. But underneath that flame, those flames, there is that one field of gas producing all of them. And so underneath all our individualities, mine, yours, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts, whatever it might be, behind all of that there is this one being who is dreaming all of us. Remember, you are God's dream. You have no other reality. And yet, it's such a clever dream. It's so real seeming. As I've said recently, the projection booth of a movie, there's the light that animates that film and makes everything seem different. But it's just one light behind it all. And so that one light, that one gas, that one power behind everything is producing the entire universe. And we have to understand that we are that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that infinite one. Not I, the ego, I, the soul. So the more you can learn to feel that he is the doer, the more you will find yourself free. But desire is that thing which is the constant enemy even of the wise. Desire is that one which says, make my hole bigger, I can make a bigger flame. Desire is that one which impels you outward from your center into the world. Desire is that which tells you, I will feel happy only when I get that. And such desires by themselves are great enemies. Desire, my great enemy, is giving me lots of trouble, oh my Lord. That enemy I will deceive, remaining in castle of peace, night and day, in thy joy, O Lord. So be centered in yourself, and when a desire comes, give it to God. Say that it's your bliss I'm seeking, and I will not find it in this thing. I will find it only in you. The senses, mind, and intellect are declared to be their stronghold, the stronghold of desire, and the constant desire and attachment. So the senses, mind, and intellect are declared to be their stronghold. Desire, through these three, deludes the embodied soul and eclipses its wisdom. I've said it's not his because it's neither male nor female. In yourself, you are neither man nor woman. You are the infinite. You are that infinite one. And you appear one or the other because in duality there have to be always two. But ultimately you are neither man nor woman, nor Indian, nor American, nor French, nor rich, nor poor, nor anything. All this baggage of self-definitions you must get rid of. And yet they are your enemies, and they reside in your mind, in your desire, in your heart, and they reside in every bit of outward consciousness. Senses, mind, intellect, everything. Therefore, best of the Bharata dynasty, begin by disciplining the senses, withdrawing energy from them into the spine. Then destroy desire by casting it from your heart. Desire is the sinful destroyer of wisdom and of self-realization. Sinful because it takes you in the wrong direction. You know, there's no such thing as sin in itself. What makes it sinful is that it's a mistaken direction. You think you're going to find happiness in things, you don't find it. So you're making a mistake. And if you keep on making that mistake, you will keep going farther and farther from your source. So he is saying that we must withdraw the energy from them. Sometimes it helps to fight them. Sometimes it helps to get angry with them. Sometimes it helps to become even violent in a sense. Like that man who was an alcoholic and found himself going for his bottle after 5 years. And he became so angry with himself, he took all the bottles from his closet and threw them on the street outside his home. And that violence of rejection was necessary for him to absolutely resolve not to have that fault anymore. I remember many years ago, I used to be intellectually proud. I am intelligent, and I allowed pride to come into the picture. And I remember I was so sick of this thing, and my guru kept saying, get devotion. I know now that the greatest cure for every delusion is love, selfless love. But at this one evening, I remember I was sitting in meditation. I was suddenly confronted with this ego, and I was so furious with myself. I just said, "Get out!" And with absolute power, I just threw it out of my mind. Suddenly, I found myself free. And I remember I went out and saw my guru standing above the tennis courts, looking out over Los Angeles. And I knelt at his feet and touched them. And he touched me on the head, and he said, "Very good." But from that day to this, I have not had that particular delusion. No doubt I've had many more, but that one I got rid of. So this is not what Krishna is saying here. He's saying, destroy, beginning by disciplining the senses, withdrawing energy from them into the spine. Well, this is important too. Usually what you need to do, and this is what Arjuna is being told in the Bhagavad Gita, he's told to fight. What he's told to do is to slay these desires, not to slay anything outward, not to slay an outward foe. The Gita is entirely an allegory of your inner being. And the war of Kurukshetra is between the upper Pandava tendencies going toward God and the downward Kauravas, the desires and attachments to this world. We need to withdraw. Basically, what we have to do is constantly and regularly withdraw. Before I made that great decision of renouncing this ego of intellect, I had done a year or two of intense effort at withdrawal. You can only do it if you can withdraw. Otherwise, what you do is by emphasizing it, you give it more power. But remember this important teaching in the Gita, that the more you withdraw power from your lower nature and give it to the higher, the more free you will be. You can't destroy those qualities, but you can transmute them. And so your desire for anger becomes peace, and your desire for lust becomes the desire to become omnipresent and have that feeling of touch with the whole universe. So every wrong desire becomes transmuted into a higher. You don't kill the desire, you change it. So this withdrawal is a very important teaching. And through yoga and pranayama, gradually, just as in sleep and at death, you withdraw your energy from the body, in sleep temporarily, in death permanently. But that withdrawal is something that you must practice every day. So every day should be a yogic act of discipline and transmutation and redirection of energy into the divine. And in that sense, every day is a new incarnation. Every night you go to sleep and you leave everything, and when you reincarnate the next day, you come back with renewed power to fight that battle. And the same thing with death. You withdraw from that fact, and if you've been a murderer, you don't remember that usually. And as a result, your mind is free from that hypnotic affirmation of being a murderer, of doing wrong things and so on. When you find that inner freedom, then when you reincarnate, you lose that memory in order that you may start again. And Lahiri Mahashai, my Param Guru, said, is that right? Param Guru, okay. what happens is that, as he said, every breath, in a sense, is a reincarnation. You exhale and die. You inhale and are reborn. Now that may seem not very much of a death and not very much of a rebirth, but the thing is, it's all consciousness. And when your consciousness is directed that way, you can make it that way. For example, if you want to change a bad habit, a very good thing is first to exhale and feel that you're throwing out all that bad habit from yourself. Then inhale and strongly affirm this new attitude that you want to develop. You can change a habit in a day if you practice this. This is what I did in that meditation. The more that you can absolutely affirm that this is a new life, and the way to do it is with your inhalation, with your rebirth in the presence consciousness. Your exhalation sends that old energy away. And so when you do this affirmation, exhale, feel that you're throwing out of your system all wrong thinking, all wrong habits. Then when you inhale, now I've entered a new life, I can start again. You can make every inhalation a cause for changing your whole consciousness. These are wonderful teachings, and the Gita is such a great scripture because it teaches in practical ways how we can achieve the moksha that is our ultimate destiny in life. You are a child of God, not of Maya, not of limitation. You are the infinite, and someday you will realize that that is who you really are. Joy to you.